Welcome to the last presentation of PICHITAS House. On this presentation, we're going to talk about scenario management. And our team is made up by José Carlos Rodríguez Queles, Jorge Andrés Figueroa Zamora, André Omar Pérez Arias, and José Murillo Castillo. And we're going to begin with the introduction section of our presentation. On this section, we're going to talk about why this scenario management is important to us as engineers and how we can apply it on our workplace. So, as you can now recall from our introduction to industrial engineering course taught by Dr. Carlos Solorio, we learned the profile, skills, and impact that an industrial engineer must have on their workplace. Also, one of the most important skills that an IE must have is the ability to read and interpret data in order to make improvements towards a specific goal. These pieces of data can be worked with in a better way by running scenarios. And scenarios are a great tool that we can use towards improving something. By making a scenario, you can modify different elements or pieces from a bigger problem or context and run simulations with it. By running these simulations, we can start predicting different outcomes without making any real change on the structure of the problem or context that we're working on. And this is exactly what scenario management in Excel is able to do for us. On this picture, we're seeing an example of a simulation in industry. And as you can see, all of these changes are made in a virtual way, meaning that the facility on the real world has not been changed at all. Workplaces such as production and manufacturing plants depend on scenario management on a daily basis, since their structures are always changing towards improvement, focused on making more profit. And all of this was calculated and predicted by running simulations on a software similar to Scenario Manager in Excel. This only makes a Scenario Manager a necessary tool towards making effective decisions in the business world, which will lead towards achieving financial success for your company or workplace, such as Toyota, Skyworks, Honeywell, or any other major company in the world. And it is our jobs as engineers to implement this scenario software in an outstanding way for our companies. We are now going to begin to explain the concepts of what is this tool on Excel. So listen up and learn this because this information can and will appear on the final term of this data course. As a general concept, Scenario Manager is a what-if analysis tool available in Excel, which works on different scenarios provided to it. It uses a group of ranges which impact on a certain output and can be used for making different scenarios, such as well, bad, and medium, depending on the values present in the range which impact the result. We're talking on a more technical concept. A scenario manager in Excel is a part of three what-if analysis tools in Excel, which are built in Excel. In simple terms, you can see the impact of changing input values without changing the actual data, like on data tables. Your new input values must change to achieve a specific goal. Also, the scenario manager in Excel allows you to change or substitute input values for multiple cells, maximum up to 32. Therefore, you can view the results of different input values on different scenarios at the same time. And this tool also has some similarities with Access, since you can see Scenario Manager as a tool similar to a query. As you can now recall, queries on Microsoft Access allowed us to make searches or operations on our own database tables and reflect those changes on a whole different section. Scenario Manager is similar to this, since it also allows us to change the input values of our Excel tables and present those changes on a separate format, without changing the original data source.
The next topic we're going to explore is scenario management. Scenario management or scenario manager can be found under the What If Analysis button in the Data menu. The What If Analysis button gives us three tools, which help us show different scenarios by changing data without actually changing the numbers. It will just give us hypothetical scenarios. Here we have a step-by-step explanation in which we use an example that we created, in which we joined our 4 incomes and our 4 expenses, the 4 people of our group, and we made it into an Excel worksheet. We start with a weekly allowance, the errands of dad's work, which is Jorge's, military service of Angel, and tutoring provided by Omar and I. We also have expenses, the lunch, Jimena's cookies, gas, drawing tools for our technical drawing, and our weekend expenses. We begin with our first step, which is clicking the What If Analysis button and Scenario Manager. This window will pop up, and here is where we're going to create our different scenarios. We click Add, and that's where we begin. We have the name, which we selected original, and the changing cells, which are the values that we're going to change. We click OK, and it will take us to this table. Here is the original values, and we can change them. But in the first scenario, which is called original, we just live in that same way. We click OK, it saves. This will be the original scenario in which we have the original values. We click Add, and we have another scenario. This one we will name Scenario 1. The same changing values. We click OK, but now we do change the values. In this hypothetical scenario, we will each eat less cookies, and one of us will get grounded, so we're going to have less weekend expenses. We click OK, and the scenario changes. When it's saved, we will add an extra scenario. And in this scenario, we will enter quarantine, so we will have 0 expenses for the weekend and 0 expenses for the cookies. We click OK, and here we can see the scenarios, the results of scenario 1. We click the scenario 1, we click Show, and it will give us the different values. Here we can click scenario 2, we will click Show, and we will have the 0 and the 0, as you can see, with different outcomes. Another tool of the What If analysis is the Goal Seek tool, which is meant to find a certain value, like this. We will later see an example of the Goal Seek tool. The data table is used to make projections by having different scenarios with different variables. You can have a 1 input table and a 2 input table. You will see an example of that too. We will proceed with the different examples. We will now show you how to do it with an actual example in Excel. We will use the same values as the one we did in the PowerPoint so you can relate to it. Here we create insert, we make a table, we select the length of it. Later we can edit it. We click OK, we have the value. We can change how it looks here. I don't want it to have buttons, so we're going to click here. You're going to click source of income. Remember that we're going to have the income of the 4 of us, 4 members of our group. Now we're going to have the amount. Show the weekly allowance. I didn't actually ask them for their allowance, I just guessed it. Errand. This is one of her activities. She's always running errands for his dad. Military service. I don't think they actually pay him, but they should. He works really hard at it. In tutoring, Omar gave tutoring, and I do too this semester. In the total, we will click make it equal to the sum of all the rows. And to make it shorter, you don't need actually all these values. I'm going to create another table. Lunch. Next, cookies. We all help her with cookies. Drawing tools. We actually only did this once, like buy tools, but it was really expensive. Gas. We all have cars, and you guys, your sister. Me and Omar lives very far, so we have a lot of gas money. And expenses. To make these as accurate as possible. We need to have money left. I'm going to subtract the expenses by the money that we joined. Okay, so now we're going to do what we actually came here to do, which is the scenario manager. We click the what if analysis, scenario manager. We have this window, click add. We will add the original, which will have the original values. We click on Jimena's cookies and the expenses, which are the values that we are going to change. And to leave that like this. You can also change the gas, and you can also change the expense. Well, wait, we did it wrong. Here, we'll do the Jimena's cookies, B10, and the expenses, B13. Original. I'm going to do it like this to save the values. Click OK. Add another scenario. Here one. Here we try to cut on their expenses so you have more money. You're going to buy less cookies and spend less on the weekend. Another one. Scenario 2. This is the quarantine scenario in which we can't go out and we don't go to school, so we have no cookies to buy. Here we will save the most money. We can click here, show. The values will change 120, 300. Here, show the 0. You can see we have more money. And the original will always be the same. It will never change. So this is the end of the scenario manager. We can also have a summary. Click OK. And here we will have the summary of all the money we have left with the different values. It's cool that we can actually have another summary in which we select the whole thing to see all the changing values. It is not necessary. As you can see, you have the same values for almost all the boxes, but we do have the changes in the cookies, which is B10, and the expenses. So this will be the end of the scenario manager. We are now going to show you how to do the other tools of the what if analysis. We're going to do the goal seek, which is a short one. It has many different ways to use it. We're going to use it this way. We're going to create a table. Change how we look at it. Okay, so we're going to do the assignment. And let's say grade. We're going to use a real example without the real, obviously the real grades. No? Let's say we have all the stages, stage 1, stage 2, all of your assignments, stage 4, stage 5. Okay. Final grade. Okay, this one is put for values. We're going to leave the last one blank, and the final grade, we will make it equal to the average of the whole thing. So it'll be 95.5. Okay, so now we're going to use the goal seek. Technically, just seek the goal as the name will suggest. We're going to select the cell B7, which is the final grade. We want it to be 97. So here, by clicking change cell, we're going to change this blank cell so that it can give us the value that we're looking for, which is 97. We click B6, when we click OK, Excel will try to find a value that will make the final grade 97, which is the value that we're looking for. Calculations. We have to get a 103, so you'll probably need some of your extra points if you want the 97 in this scenario. We will now show you how to do the last tool of the 3-way analysis tool. And these 3 tools, we will select the data table, which is the longest one and the hardest one. You will have an example of a loan. We will ask the bank for a loan, and we're going to have the interest rate, the month we're going to pay it in, the actual money loaned, and we're going to find how much we're going to pay per month, and what will be our total payment, and how much money the bank will earn from loaning us this month. So in the interest rate, the months, and the money borrowed. You will find the total the monthly payment, total payment along all the months you're going to pay, and the interest money. This will be the extra money we will pay in order for the bank to actually loan us the money. That's what they earn. That's why they work. This is the money that keeps banks running. Okay, so the interest rate, let's say we're going to have an 8% interest rate. Say we will pay it in 6 years, which is 72 months. 6 times 12. And the money borrowed will be $10,000. Find the monthly payment, we will invoke this function of Excel. As you can see, PMT calculates the payment of a loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate. When we start to plug in the numbers, you have to plug in the rate, which is the interest rate. B1 is to divide it by 12 because That is you're going to pay monthly. Now, number of periods. How many months you're going to pay it in, which is B2, 12, 72 months. Comma. And the last one will be the period, the present values, which will be the actual money that they will loan us at that exact time, which is the money borrowed, B3. Enter. As you can see, you will have a value with parentheses. The parentheses indicate a negative value. To change that, we're going to add a negative on the B3 in order for us to have a positive value. This is what we're going to pay each month. To get the total payments across the 6 years, we will multiply month B2 times B5, which is the monthly payment. This will be the actual money we will pay along the 6 years. To get the interest money, we subtract the money we're going to have it in 6 years, we're going to pay, minus the money they borrowed us. This is the money that the bank will earn by loaning us that money. Now we're going to have an interest rate table, and this is where the scenario management and the what if analysis kicks in. In this table, we will have different values in which we will predict how much money we will actually going to pay if we were to have less of an interest rate or more of an interest rate. This equals the monthly payments, so it will be B5. Let's start with a rate of 5.6. Let's extend it. So we have the 8 that we actually have, and we're going to extend it a little bit more. Why? We want to have values that are less and more than the actual value, because we will have this in the bank. This will be our problem, but we want to know how much we had to pay. We have 5%, which is less, or the 10%, which will actually charge us more. Maybe different banks have different interest rates, so this will help us select which bank is better. Okay, so we're going to select all of this, go to data, what if analysis, not goal seek, but data table. For the column input cell, we're going to select the interest rate. Okay, this will be the values that we have to pay. If we had a 5% rate, we will actually have to pay $161 per month. If we had 10%, you have to pay $10 more, $185. Let's say we don't want to know the payment. We want to know how much we will actually pay during the 6 years. So we will change this to B6, which is the total payment. Click enter. This is the money that we will have to pay. You can see you can have different scenarios for different amounts of money. This is a one input data table, and we can have with 2 inputs, but that will be another topic.
As we already mentioned, a scenario management is a tool that is available in Excel, which works on different scenarios provided to it. It uses a group of ranges which impact on a certain output and can be used for making different scenarios such as well, bad, and medium, depending on the values present in the range, which impact the result. But what about the application of this tool? Today, private and public organizations such as Apple, a company that produces cell phones, or his competition, we're talking about Samsung, another company that produces cell phones. Or what about the factories such as Honeywell, a company that manufactures trucks? Or what about Skyworks, a company that manufactures semiconductors and mobile communication systems? There are a lot of companies that we can use as an example. But the question is, of all the companies I mentioned, what do they have in common? All of them face 3 challenges. The increasing uncertainty. We refer to uncertainty as a situation in which something is not known. Then we have the increasing complexity. We refer to complexity as the state of having many parts and being difficult to understand or to find an answer. And finally, the increasing competition. But they have to consider 3 approaches in order to master this. So the first approach is coping with uncertainty. Today changes are standard. Rigid prognosis fail. Therefore, companies have to accept that the future is no longer predictable. Moreover, they should anticipate alternative future paths and integrate these multiple futures into their strategic planning. This approach is called future open thinking. The second approach is handling complexity. Many markets and industries are converging. The amount of relevant influence factors is increasing, and it's difficult to understand their interactions. Thus, companies must learn to understand these interactions and the behavior of such systems so effective strategies can be developed. This approach is called system thinking. The third and final approach is using future chances. In a situation of increasing competition, it is important to be one step ahead. Therefore, companies should not only concentrate on short-term success. They have to identify future possibilities and risk early enough in order to integrate them in their decision process. This is the core strategic thinking. In case multiple alternative future developments are revealed which are based on linking thinking, we refer to them as scenarios. We refer to a scenario as a possible situation that may occur within a company. A scenario development in the context of strategic decision-making processes is one of the main subjects of scenario management. The usage of scenarios focuses on three different application areas. So, in the first one, we're talking about the context of strategic development. Scenarios are implemented in order to think ahead of market and external conditions as well as to reveal own options for actions. This process then leads to robust visions and strategies as well as to a closer observation for critical indicators in the context of strategic early detection. But what does the success of a company depend on? Right now, we are talking about scenario development, an application area of the scenario management. Driving a company toward transformation is a crucial goal that may seem simple, but the reality is that not all companies can have what it takes to accomplish the success of a company. There are companies like Amazon, Google, Apple, Samsung that can be considered as successful companies. And the reason why is because they are constantly analyzing how to evolve not only their products, but also the internal and external capabilities. In counterpart, many other organizations have suffered due to their lack of strategy development. There are a lot of examples, but right now I'm going to mention a couple. Kodak, dedicated to the design, production, and marketing of photographic equipment. Kodak could not overcome the digital transformation of industry. Another example is BlackBerry, who went from success to the underground in just a few years. The reason why many companies fail to plan their movement is easy to say. They are afraid of the future. The second application area. The success of the enterprise stands and falls with the implementation of the evaluated strategic direction of impact, such as change and transformation process is being created and supervised within the framework of future driving change. I'll mention why a strategy impact is so important for a company. A project manager usually identifies the probability of a risk to occur and its effect on the project. But a few more risk characteristics are also available to be considered. One of these characteristics is strategic impact. As the name indicates, a strategic impact refers to the level to which a potential project-related risk affects one or more strategic goals or objectives of the organization. When a risk affects the strategic objective of the organization, its probability of occurrence must be reduced so that the position of the organization in the market is not affected. The more affects of risks on strategic goals led to high strategic impact. The third and last application area. Another area of application for scenarios is the strategic innovation management. The future images specify how new markets, products, and services, new technologies, or new business models might look like, and how they can be linked to the strategic direction of impact. Today, in order for a business to succeed, it needs to stay competitive. So a company needs a strategic innovation to understand the marketplace and produce new products to meet the needs of the customers. As technology advances at a rapid pace, a business needs to be able to use that technology with innovative concepts. Business can fail if they can grow in this ever-changing world. Additionally, the business needs to look for new streams of revenues that can keep the company going. Innovation is one way to make a lasting statement in the business world and keep a company going. And lastly, scenarios are an important tool, but they are far from being the only tool which helps companies to prepare for the future. In order to be able to apply scenarios purposefully, they have to be seen in the overall context of the toolbox.
So, hello, we're going to explain a real life example about how to use the scenario management program. And first of all, what we're going to do, we have our main title, which is the family monthly budget. And here you're supposed to like, what are the expenses that you have in your family? Like for saying the husband salary, like for saying that there is a husband and a wife, and both of them they have a salary and the expenses that is going to be monthly. So just for saying, we have some pretty basic examples of what they spend on, which will be the clothes, the gym, gas, groceries, water bill, electricity bills, Wi-Fi bill, and extra expenses. Like it could be going out for a movie night, going out for playing pool. So our first step is to put our title, which is the family monthly budget, and we can separate this table into two parts, which is all the expenses on the top, which is all this part, and on the second part we put the income, who is the family members that have the income of the house. So on this example, we put it that on the expenses that we have, you will be subtracting everything that is going to be expenses on. So it will be $300 for clothes monthly, $50 for gym. It will be $250 per gas, assuming that we have 2 cars on this household. There will be $125 for groceries. The water bill and electricity bill are pretty cheap in this case. So we have $25 and $30. The Wi-Fi bill, which is a little bit more expensive, we consider it was $25. And the extra, we consider it was $500 because a lot of people like to waste a lot. So that was according to the ways that they spend their money on, and basing on the salary that the husband has, the husband in this case, he will have a little bit less than the wife, which is 1,200 for the husband, and for the wife will be 1,500. According to this table, we have that if we sum their salary, they will have, according to like
they would, if they add their salary monthly and we subtract all the waste, all the money that they spend monthly, at the end we would have a total of $1,395. But according to what are we trying to explain here, which is using the scenario management. And we clone scenario management, we can put plan A or plan B, you know. So I already did a plan A and plan B, but let's say I'm gonna show you how you do this scenario management. So first of all, when you click on add, and let's say you put the name for the scenario. I already have plan A and plan B, so we move on to plan C. And plan C. And right here it says changing cells, and these are the cells that you want to change from your table right here. And let's say that this family wants to save more money, and they try to not spend too much on their monthly bills, so they can save a little bit more money for future expenses. So we can consider that on the that we can spend a little bit less on clothes, and we're going to change cell B2, and you put a comma so you can change a lot of cells at the same time. So we put comma, and let's say that this family doesn't want to go to a gym no more, or they're trying to pay. Let's say they are paying the premium packet, and they going to lower to the basic packet. So we're going to change the gym cell, so it will be B3, and we're also going to change the gas, which will be B4. And in this case will be, it's like to say that they have two cars, but they're going to drive less, or they're going to make a limit on the usage of the car. So we press OK right here. You can comment like what is going to be changed, but at this moment we're not going to change it. We just have the date, or the date that it was changed. So we press OK, and it will pop up these scenario values. The scenario values, we have the first and second and third, which are basically what I already said, the B cell number 2, 3, and 4. So we're trying to waste a little bit less. So for the close monthly, let's say that we're going to make expenses about $125 per month on clothes. And for the gym, we went from the premium packet to the basic. So we're going to pay now $20 per month for the two of them. And for the gas, we're trying to drive a little bit less, so we're going to pay now $150. Supposing that this is the new scenario, so we can save a little bit more money. So we press OK, to change this, to make this scenario. And right now we can click on plan C. If we put in plan C and we put show here, it will change all these values. Well, it will change the three values right here, which is the clothes, gym, and gas. So now we press OK, and as you can see, the values for the clothes, gym, and gas went lower, and our total income went a little bit higher. So this is like for us to explain you how the scenarios work. I have two more scenarios which I already made by myself, which is plan A, changing the cells B9 and B2, which is the extra expenses, and the gym also. No, it's a close. So we can put here just to show how it look on this plan. I try to lower the expenses on the extra category. Instead of being 500 per month, it will be 350 $100 per month, and the clothes went down for $50. What we can also do here is we click on scenario management, and we can click on the summary, so we can see the summary of what was changed or what could be changed in different plans. So we click on the scenario summary, and then we press OK, and it will pop up this new table, which tells you like the current values that we have, and the plan A, plan B, and plan C, and what are the numbers that are going to change. And here are the results that we're going to get from each plan. And this will be about it for the first scenario. We can also move on to the second scenario, to the second example. The second example will be a little bit more complicated than the first example. Let me move to the next example. So moving on to the second example, this second example is a little bit more complicated, so I will go a little bit faster than the first one. So on the first example, we already have this is a table for knowing the weight, the height, and the BMI of the patient and their classification. So for the example, I made two tables, which is the whole table with the patient's weight, height, and the right formula in order to know the exact BMI and the classification. So here's the other table that will tell you like if they're underweight, normal, overweight, obesity, and the minimum or maximum of the BMI, and including with the risk of comorbidities. So moving on to the first step, what we did was to add the patient. So right now we have 9 patients, and let's just say we're going to look into the first 3 patients. So the first patient, it will be Angel Castillo, weighing 100 K, with a height of 1.78, and calculating the BMI. The BMI is the weight divided by the height, and we get this calculation, which is 31.56. And according to the BMI index table, we know that the patient named Angel will be considered obesity class number 1, because it's on the range of 30 to 34. And it will be moving on to the second patient will be Jorge Figuero, and he has calculated the same BMI, but he's a little bit on the average. He's on the overweight category. And the next person will be Emilio Plata, weighing 125. He's more than the expected, so he's on the obesity class number 2. So he's on the severe risk right here. So trying to make changes on this table, if we make the scenario management for this table, it will create a little bit more changes on what we're going to change the weight, and the same weight will change the BMI and the classification. So let's say that we have a plan D, and we're going to change the first 3 patients. So it will be 3 dash B4 dash B5. So this is the first 3 patients. We're not going to put any comments. We press OK, and we change the weight of them. So let's say that the weight for Angel will be 86, the weight for Jorge will he probably gained some weight during the quarantine, and he's 125. And well, let's say he's 140. And for Emilio, he lost some weight. He was doing exercise, so he's now weighing 69. It's okay. Now we go to Plan B and we show the results. And Angel went from obesity to overweight, and then Jorge went from, I think it was overweight to obesity class 3. He exceeded. And Emilio Plata, since he lost some weight, he went from obesity to normal. So this is how it would change. And if we look at the analysis, we go to a scenario and a scenario management, and we click on the summary to know all the plans. So we have plan 1, 2, and C and D. So we click on the summary, and here will show all the plans and how it will change for all of them. And that will be it for this example.